So these are the parts that make up the front bumper for the 98 to 2011 Ford Rangers that I make. So this kit's designed so it fits either the stock height body lift, or if you add a 3-inch body lift, it'll fit both of them. So kind of show how it all goes together, and a couple of the modifications you need to first make, depending on if you're doing a factory height or if you're going to be doing a 3-inch body lift. So the truck I'm building this one for is going to be just factory height. So I'll start by modifying those pieces. I'll show you that, and then go from there. Alright, so the first thing you need to do, this is for a truck that doesn't have the body lift. If you have the body lift, you can just leave these as is and continue on. But if you're using this on a truck without a body lift, right here where this got marked out, you can see it up here and then across, so it lines up with this top point right there and then lines up with this edge here. This little square needs to be cut out of both of these. And then this piece right here at the end, right here at the bottom, that needs to be cut off as well. So while I build this, I'm gonna cut this out on both of them because it's easier before I build the bumper. But I'll build one side with these on there, and then the other side I'll build like a stock height truck. So, and the nice thing is, if you do a stock height to begin with, and then you ever decide you want to put a body lift on it, you can just save these pieces and put them on later on. So I'll get these cut out, and then we'll start on the next step. All right, so this is what they would look like after you cut them, for if you're just putting it factory height. So you notice the pieces cut out right here, and the little tails off of here. This side, I saw it barely attached. I cut most of it since it's easier now. But if it was for a body lift, you just leave that on there. And then I'll build this one side for a body lift, and then this side for factory height, and just can do whatever you need for that. So we'll start the assembly. One thing to know is, because of the way the plasma cut has a little bit of bevel on it, like sometimes you'll see like all the pieces have little tabs on them so they can only go one way. You may have to touch those up and grind them up and square them up a little bit so that the pieces fit. So we'll start the assembly next. All right, so the first two pieces I start with is the plate that the winch holds on, mounts to, and then the front piece where the fairlead goes. So this is actually looking at it from the back. So I just put two 90-degree magnets right there, and I will tack that in place to just hold it. And what it does is, through here, it keys through here, so eventually we'll come back through here and weld all these at the end. So that's what lines it up. All right, so I just put a couple tacks on the bottom here. I just made sure I didn't line them up with these gussets that will go across there. So now we have that. So now we'll just put the side plates on next. All right, so I got the side pieces clamped on here. Come in, they got this kind of U shape. They slot through right here, and then they actually pass through the front here. And there's a second piece that this ends up making your gusset. So this is the first piece, and then this one just goes in here, slides in, and then what you do is you adjust this one to just make sure that that hole lines up. So as long as that hole lines up, you get that all lined up, and then that's where you tack this piece on the back in as well. So get both those tacked on, and then move on to the next one. All right, so I got the side pieces, just a couple little tacks, and then I tacked in the front winch piece right here that I just used. Just line them up, then use a pair of vice grips to hold them on tight, and then a couple tacks will get all welded later on. So next we'll flip it over, and then we'll put the brace across the back, and then the braces that go in here. All right, so this long back piece goes on here, and then we have these pieces right here that are the reinforcements for the winch plate. So they're keyed, so they just drop in like so. And then I just use a magnet to hold them in 90 degrees. So you just pull all this nice and tight, and then we'll tack weld all these on. We got one more right here. You notice they key only one direction. So then just stick them in. So I'll get all that tacked on next. All right, so we got the back brace on the winch plate welded on. We got the gussets across where the winch will bolt onto. So then the next step is I lay it down. Then I take this piece and line it up right here. Now, what I was talking about earlier is when you go in here, right here in the corner, because this has just a little bit of round from the plasma cutting right in that corner, it won't quite fit tight in here. So these are just little corners you gotta clean up on with a little grinder to make them fit nice and tight. So we'll put this piece on both sides next. All right, so the side plates got tacked on next. So, and then this piece goes on here, like so, for your side, and it just lines up. It needs to be lined up right in here, down that joint, and then right across the back, down there, you can see it where it lines up as well. So you just line those up, and then so get it nice and tight as you can, and then that gets tacked in. Do that for both sides. All right, so now I got the two front pieces on the end tacked on. So then what we come in is put this piece on that comes up here, which is this one here, which goes on here like so, and then just pull it so that all the tabs line up and make it fit. So we'll tack those on both sides next. All right, so now that I got these pieces on here to help balance that, to kind of hold this piece, I end up putting the piece that goes into this little slot right here, which are these two, which this piece ends up coming in like so to hold a little pod light, and then this piece ends up being a gusset for it to hold it so it doesn't bounce around like so. So next I'll get those tack welded in on the two ends. All right, so once this piece gets tacked on, you'll have this is the support for it. Keeps it nice and strong. Is the next piece to go on is once you have it flipped up like this, are the mounts that we modified earlier. So they end up fitting in like so. And then, so this is the side for no body lift is what it would look like here. And then this one here is for a body lift. And so then this one ends up going on here like so. So that is the next piece to tack on. All right, so after this piece gets tacked on here, the next piece that goes in is going to be this piece. Now it slides back in through here, and what it ends up doing is it ends up looking like this here. So it goes up through here, and it lines up coming through right there into that gap there, and it comes up here and then through the front right through there. Now before you weld that in there, it just kind of sits in here because this is when you can get it in. Is the next piece is you got to flip it up and then put the end piece on that goes right here, and then because this slots into it, and then get all that tacked in. So that'll be the next step. All right, so now we got the two outer pieces on, and then we also got that piece on the inside in. So now it's flip it upside down, and we'll start building out the wings. So I got that set up and show you what that is. All right, so once you get it flipped back over, upside down now. So now we'll start building out this end on both sides. So there's a couple different pieces here, so I'll show you on this side. So first, this piece ends up going in here, and it notches in like that, so that it kind of becomes your internal piece. So this piece up here ends up coming up into here and gets welded onto here once you line that up. So this piece ends up becoming here, it tabs onto here, so on like that. And then this piece becomes the extension onto here to wrap around to the tire. All right. And then this ends up being the last piece out here. So you can kind of see it right here when it's all set up. This piece ends up going on here. The key here is to make sure that these bottom pieces end up flat because that gets seen on the top. So you make sure that stays all lined up. And then once this is all lined up, you want to make sure that you got it so that this corner right here stays inside of here because that covers that. Then you got the end piece that goes on the end. So I'll get this side, and then this piece goes onto here like so, and then the top piece on here that gets welded on and goes into here. So I'll get this all tacked up and show you what goes there. All right, so now I got the ends tacked on here. One piece I didn't show was this piece right here that just sits into here. So I'll tack weld that one in next. And then for those with the body lift, since this piece is still sticking out, what you have is this piece goes, this little piece right here, ends up going on this side right here and getting welded on like that. And then this bracket over here ends up going on this side and getting welded on right here. So those, since this one's not going to be a for a body lifted truck, I'm just going to end up knocking this off, pulling this off right now. So those pieces, so these 4 pieces are only if you are using the body lift, otherwise you don't need to use them. So get that piece tacked in, I'm gonna knock that stuff off, and then we'll flip it around up top because there's a couple things we gotta do on the front still. All right, so now back to the front. We have the shackle mounts here that are the 2 pieces, the 1 piece all the way through, and then 1 piece that's on the back here. And then there's a total of 4 of these pieces that just go on each side like so. So let's get them lined up and just clamp them on. Just make sure the center hole through is lined up as best you can so that it gets enough space so that the shackle, when you put a shackle on there, it'll still clear it. So I'm gonna get these tacked on, and you can notice how on these, the outer ones are just a little bit taller so that you can fill all that with a weld across there, and then weld down the sides here, get a nice strong mount. So that's how those go. So I'm gonna get those tacked on, and there's a few other things on the back to show you, and then be good to go. All right, here you can see the shackle mount pieces are tacked on, so they just get fully welded at the end. So that's pretty much everything on the bumper itself. Now there's a couple pieces still left that are here. So these oval pieces are basically a washer. They go behind the factory mount, one on each side, where it bolts to the factory plate on the frame, since it's only like an 1/8 inch thick. So then these tabs here, once you set the bumper and get it aligned on the truck and exactly where you want it, this piece comes and gets welded on here, and it attaches to the factory tow hook mounts. So then you're left with these pieces here. What these do is each one of these gets welded into a 90-degree like this on each side. So you weld this on each side like this, and then like so on either side. And what they do is that piece ends up getting welded to the top of your frame rail, and that's what bolts in to this bolt right here. So once you get everything aligned up on your bumper, this piece gets bolted on, and you reach back in there, and then this side right here gets tacked to the frame and welded to the frame to help give it another support. And then the piece is still here there's a hole right here for when it's on a body lifted truck too, as well, to help give it some strength as well too. So that's pretty much how the whole bumper goes together. Now it's just a matter of going through, fully welding it, grinding it, and painting it. So if you got any questions, let me know.